Hello viewer, welcome to today's episode of Health Talk Show. We are discussing today about a very crucial topic and I am sure you would like to hear about it. We are discussing about burns. Last week we discussed about wounds and I am sure you will be able to understand why we had to separate burns from wounds and discuss it alone, because it is so crucial and very essential from adulthood up to our children at home. My name is Lucy Wanza-Kariuki and I have beautiful guests in the house who are going to take us through burns. Remember to follow us on our social media platforms, our Facebook and YouTube channel at GBS TV Africa, and our SMS line is 41122. Welcome to the show. To our guests, karibuni sana. Kindly introduce yourself. I start with the lady.
My name is Kendi Pori, a nurse.
Welcome, Kendi.
Good evening, Lucy. Thank you for inviting me. I'm Dennis Ntabiga, a physiotherapist and an orthopedic specialist.
Welcome to the show, Dennis.
Thank you so much.
I know many people experience the issue of burns. And we are going to discuss burns today for people to learn, for people to practice some things at home.
Good.
Kindly introduce burns by first telling us the layers where it affects in the body.
Well, thank you again. When talking about burns, we are typically speaking of injuries that could occur anywhere. Anywhere, meaning that you can get a burn from while cooking, you can get a burn while maybe taking care of your chores here and there. So burn is basically heat coming in contact with your body skin.
We are talking about heat.
Heat. It must include heat. It must have a burning effect. Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. So where do they affect mostly?
We are talking about your skin.
Skin.
Yes.
Describe for us the skin.
When describing the skin is basically the outer covering of your body.
Yes.
Which it comes in different complexions. Like you're a bit lighter than me, so mine is a bit dark. And
Yes.
And as they say, I don't know if it's true, but mine maybe is more susceptible to burns because it's a bit absorbent to heat.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can get a burn when your skin comes into contact, and we classify these burns in different levels depending on how deep the injury goes, how deep the burn goes, and again we look at how broad was the burn.
Thank you so much. I know when you talk about the way heat comes into contact with the body, we understand where we are coming from.
Yes.
We understand that it is not just an injury, but it is all about heat, high temperatures. Polly, Kendi, kindly tell us what are some of the types of burns or some classification?
In burns, we have 4 classification of the burns or type of burns. Where you have the first degree tier. We have that is the superficial of the superficial burns. We only have the burns of the upper layer of the skin. We have the second degree burn, and the third degree burn, and the 4th degree burn. The second degree burn is done by a skin is damaged the superficial and some in epi damage the skin. Yeah. Then on the third degree tier, here is by we damage the hypodermis, and the 4th we are damaged until the nerves.
So what you're trying to tell us, Kendi, is that skin is divided into layers.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the burn will be determined by which layer that has been injured.
Yes, when you come to
And
a
it can
facility,
mean that you there are some burns, because you know when you say these layers are injured, does it mean there is a combination of layers, or it will pass through the first, then go and find the second, or how does it happen? Yes, Daktari.
Yes, when we say about you having a third degree burn, when you come to the facility, first of all, it's identifying this is a burn. Then we will classify it. Is it a first, second, third, or fourth degree? That will be like how deep does the burn go?
How
How
deep?
many layers have been
Yes.
affected?
Yes.
Because the more layers that have been affected, the more the harder it is for it to heal, right? And so when you look at when classifying that, then we like come into conclusion like what kind of a burn you are having, or
Yes.
how bad is it in that case.
Candy, what causes these burns?
These burns can be caused by either heat or that is to include the blood fluids, the chemicals, electricity, and the radiation, the sunlight. Yeah.
What are some of other things that can cause burn?
Electricity,
Electricity.
electrical burns, one of the worst. It's actually one of the most the worst kind of burns that you can
The
ever
worst
have.
kind, eh?
Yeah, because it's very destructive in that case. And then the chemical burns, like if maybe somebody sprays you with an acid, there's a lot of damage that will occur to your skin, and the tissues that maybe the chemical will come in contact with. Yeah, so then we have friction burns, like when, for example, you scratch yourself on something, then you get that bruise at the burn that comes around because of that friction. That is what you call
Like the one
friction burns.
for border,
Yes.
bicycles.
Which one?
Sometimes you find people riding on bicycles and the motorcycles, they have burns on the legs that they didn't know that they had.
Yeah.
They'll just find that something happened. How it happened, they can't be able to tell.
Exactly. The friction burns, normally the friction it takes some time for you to realize that, but you will just most of the time find yourself having that blister.
Yes.
And then that's when you realize you have a burn.
There was a time we had in the news that a certain man was burned in a tank by, I don't remember if it was oil or water, but something. He was cleaning the tank, one of the heat tanks. Then he was burned inside there. What are some of the predisposing factors to burns?
And again, I will say predisposing factors will mostly be occupational. One, if you are working with explosive chemicals, you are likely to get an explosive like burn from that, maybe burn from that chemical. Like if you are working maybe in an acid manufacturing industry, like the car batteries, acid, you will be able, you normally get these kind of people having such burns from one point to another. If you are working in on a live electric wires, you have seen several of them getting electrocuted on the cables while they're doing the job. That's so occupation will really predispose you again to this issue. And another thing that will put you at risk again, if you're a person who handles fire every other time, like cooking at home. At one time,
near you.
one time the pot will slip and it lands on your bare hands, so you get a burn. Yeah, so predisposing factors is that you have, if you are more a person who plays with fire, who plays with these things, you are going to get burnt.
We will stop cooking, eh?
No, we have to cook because we have to eat.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I'm also imagining like children or us. Sometimes we are burned by hot food.
Yeah. For example, now when you swallowing burns, normally they are very rare, but again they can occur. Most of the time it's mistakenly. Maybe you put a bottle of acid somewhere and then the baby comes and takes that. They will get what you call a chemical burn. Or when you are in school, I remember we used to do what we called chemistry, titration, right? Some people used to sip the wrong chemicals and they get burnt because of their sipped acids. Those are the kind of burns that you can get. Kids normally get these burns due to malhandling of these substances by adults, like for example leaving your gas unattended, leaving the hot food unattended, and then the kid gets burnt by mistake.
What of explosions, Kendi? Talk of explosions.
Explosions is whereby we are not supposed, for example, like the previous week of this month, whereby some of the people after the accident of the petrol machine, the petrol control that has fallen, and then you start trying to take the petrol out of it. You're not supposed to do it because it can cause the explosion of the heat from that flammable heat. So you should be careful in that when you see such a thing, you are not supposed to do it. Again, when you come in the house, you should be able to maintain that your gas is in a good condition to avoid the explosion of the gas from when you are cooking or maybe not cooking. So you should think about it and do it in a better way. Yeah, those are some of them.
There was a time we saw a certain gospel artist trying to explain about how the husband got burned. And he was trying to repair, I don't know, repair or check a gas cylinder. And I was asking myself, how did it blow into fire? Because I thought for a gas to blow, there must be maybe a matchbox.
Yeah. Well, remember we are dealing with the flammables. Flammable items like the gas itself, it's highly flammable.
Yes.
So, for example, a single spark. Remember, he was repairing this. This is a metal. Don't know what he was using to do the repair. Maybe it was some other kind of metal. So he knocks it, and then there is a spark.
A spark.
And then it just explodes. And I remember, always you are being advised to get these cylinders from good suppliers, because there are so many fakes in the market, which the quality is again another issue. So you have maybe the default within the manufacturing system of that gas cylinder, then it just very easily explodes because the material we used to make that was substandard. Yeah.
Wow. I would like Polly to tell us, yes, we know how maybe by looking this looks like a burn. But remember, in our previous discussion, we were discussing about allergies, wounds that are caused by allergies. And such wounds may look like burns. Can we call them burns?
No. Allergic.
Because I would like to see somebody or a baby who has been poured water. And a baby who has come with the blisters and thinking it is burns. The story you hear is, I gave him a certain drug.
Well,
both of them look the same.
There will be a distinction between a burn and what you call an allergic presentation. The boils or the pimples that you will get from an allergy, they are itchy, kind of, right? But when you have a burn, it's painful. You don't want even to touch that place. And normally you will get the skin, if it's, for example, a second degree burn, the top layer of the skin has already been interfered with. It's not there. So you'll get that red part, the red burning. And sometimes even there's that smell of a burn itself, meat burning.
Oh my goodness.
So somebody was roasted.
Yes.
Yeah. So there is normally a distinctive way of like getting that. And again, the most key part is the history. The patient will come with the history. Like, how did this happen? The kid maybe dipped his hand or her hand in a sufuria of hot tea or water. Then for the other one, you see it's like there is already a history that this patient was given some medication or some kind of food that is reacting with their body. So there is that demarcation in terms of what the patient tells you and what you see.
So apart from history, Kendi, what are other things that will tell us this is really a burn?
There's some other things that you can tell you this is a burn is whereby when you take the examination, you may establish some blisters which may let you to know this is maybe a burn of the second degree tear. So the other thing you can check on it, the redness maybe and some fluid out of the burning area, burning region. So that's some of the things that you should be able to look on them when you're examining the patient. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for that. At least now we are able to differentiate burns from other types of wounds. Now, there are times when we say, like, children are at more risk of burns. And these burns, most of the time, will occur at home. You just place tea, before you know it, a child comes from nowhere, they are burned. How can we describe the things that we are supposed to do, like at home, before we go to the hospital? And Daktari, as you tell us that, Polly will be telling us what we are not supposed to do. So what are we supposed to do?
Well, we are looking at the first aid for
Yes.
the burns at home, which is commonly appearing. It's something that we get. One of the things I do advise my patients and my friends is that normally do have a first aid kit at home. It really comes in handy. And one of the things you should never miss in your house, if you have a fridge, make sure you have ice. It really helps. So the first thing to do when you get a burn is make sure that you soak that hand or the part that has been burned in cold water if there's no ice. If there's ice, apply ice on it. Why? It really reduces the degree of the burn that you will get afterwards. It minimizes, because it takes off the heat from the skin.
Yes.
So the ice really does help, and the cold water is one of the things that you want to immerse that hand in it, so that you minimize the damage that will be done by the heat. Because normally when you get a burn, you will feel that burning sensation for a very long time, maybe like 10-15 minutes, meaning there's damage still going on. So when you do immerse that part of your body in some cold water,
Yes.
it really helps a lot. That is for heat, right? Then we have, like, when you have a chemical burn. For example, you have been sprayed by some kind of chemical that is already burning you. Make sure you run fresh water
Yes.
through that burn. It really helps. Like, it clears off, because water is what you call, it's a neutral liquid.
Yes.
Neutral meaning we have it has a pH of 7.
It's not acid.
It's not acid. It's not
not
basic. So that means that it can really help a lot in terms of neutralizing the acidity of this chemical that is burning you. So run a lot of water through it, and always that's for the chemical burn. Now,
is it water alone or water and soap?
No, water. Just
Water alone.
fresh water. When you put soap, we have already interfered with the pH of the water.
Oh,
we need
yes.
pure water.
Because soap has its own contents.
Yeah, you have already interfered. Now it's more of basic. It's no longer right. Yeah, so that's for the chemical burn. Run a lot of water through it. Make sure that you have that plenty of water running through that part. And then we have the electrical burn. The first thing to do is ensure your safety. In every first aid, make sure you are safe before you attend to that person who is already injured. For example, the kid has touched that electrical wire. Make sure first you switch off the mains, right, before you go to assist. Otherwise, both of you get shocked again.
We love to
electrocuted in that case. So once you switch off, then make sure that the best way for electrical burns, because you don't know how much damage has been done internally, is to rush that baby or person as fast as possible to the nearest facility, so that they can get help.
And suppose they are not breathing, Kendi?
In case they are not breathing, in the hospital, when you arrive in the hospital, you do the ABCD. That's where you start with the airway. If there is no breath, you just start the oxygen as you open the airway. Then if there is some breath, you assess the breath as you continue the circulation and start the intravenous fluid. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. Viewer, this is DBS TV Africa, and we are in Health Talk Show. We are discussing about burns. We were just about to hear some of the things we are not supposed to do in the event that a burn has occurred in our bodies. Polly, Kendi, kindly tell us, what are these things that we are not supposed to do?
Thank you, Lucy. And some of things that we are not supposed to do at home. Back in home, you know, many things we start to do. We make our own doctors at home. Maybe we can decide to use the cow dung, the sand. sijui loving with the dirty clothes, those things you should not start, you should stop using them, because sometimes they may cause more sepsis to the burn, whereby you may complicate your burn. The baby could have healed in the next 2 days, 3 days, but it can cost for 6 months or cost more further management. Maybe this infection may end to any other bacteria or any other condition. So when you get such a scenario, you should take the patient or the person who has been burned to the hospital. So avoid the use of the cow dung, other using the dirty clothes to cover, or loving more, because it will continue, it will add more burns. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Polly. Daktari, when these people with burns come to our facilities, I know you work in a private sector. Maybe you also work in a public institution. What I would ask you is, when these people come, what do we expect? What do I mean? I have brought my baby. Somebody has brought a relative. Someone has been collected in a house with burns. Or this person has been burned by the mob in the marketplace. So when they come there, what are some of the things that you do? And what are the messages that you communicate to us? Because as you attend to my patient, you're also supposed to speak to me.
Yes.
Yes.
For sure, one of the things when it comes to burns, it's more of a collective agreement in terms of managing the patient. When you come to the facility where we are as medics, and then you present with a burn, the first and foremost thing is to know what caused the burn. That will dictate the management that we'll get.
Okay.
If it's a chemical burn, and then you will treat with anti-chemicals, which will reverse the chemical burning process. Or if it's more of a heat burn, it's a smoke burn, which could cause also internal. Because when you hear like somebody maybe was involved in a house, the burns were obtained from a house burning, you suspect that person might be having internal burns, which you are not seeing. And those ones can only be done by internal investigations. So that way, when you the first thing is get the cause of the burn.
Yes.
That will tell you what to look for and what management to go for. Number two, when we ascertain the cause of the burn, we are looking at to what extent is the damage. We go ahead and classify the body into a percentage. We give, maybe this is a second degree burn, 50% damage to the body. You see, that way we know how extensive it is.
So,
and then
Daktari, when you talk of percentage, I know somebody watching us would be like, why is it 30? Why is it 20? So when you talk of 50%, it means we take your body into half, we divide it into 50%.
Yeah, well, okay, there's what you call a body chart in medical terms. Like your palm represents a certain percentage of your body. When you get like the whole arm getting burned, then it represents a certain percentage of the body. So that's how we are able to classify that this person has second degree burns, the right arm, that's up to 20% damage. So when we get that, and then we have a second degree, we have a third degree, then we are able to know what kind of management. For example, if you have more than a second degree burn, that one is mostly isolation unit for burns, which ensures that there is less contamination. Because we are saying that already the skin has been burned, right? So there is no protective covering for your body. The chances of you getting infection are very high. We don't want that, because that's one of the complications that we look at. So we put you in a place whereby you are secure from infection, so that we don't again go from managing the burns, go to managing infections.
Okay, now you bring another important thing, isolation unit. We thought that isolation is only for COVID-19, for cholera, Ebola. Why are we isolating these people? Because they are not infectious. I know you have tried to explain it, but now bring it out clear. Clearer and nearer.
Infections, isolations have been there since. We started by isolating even TB patients. We started isolating so many conditions. HIV was more of a stigma, not real isolation. But when we look at isolation for burns, we are looking at a controlled environment where very few people go in.
Yes.
When these people go in, they are wearing what you call protective sterile clothing to protect this person from any external pathogens or any external parasites.
Now this time round, it is not preventing the visitor from the infection, but now it is protecting the patient from the visitor's microbes.
Yes.
Yes.
Because we are always carrying some bacteria and germs around when walking.
With us.
Which may be healthy or not healthy. But the fact they are not affecting you is because your skin is very much intact. And it's preventing them from getting into your body. But now the defense system, which is the skin, is already gone to some part of the body. It's not there. So it's giving leeway for this bacteria to get into your body, cause infection, eat through the flesh and all that. We don't want that to happen. So we want this skin to heal and regenerate. For us to allow that, we must put you somewhere which is an isolated place where you will be handled by very few people to help you heal and recover very fast.
What are other things that you do to that patient?
Majorly the patient within that unit, as they are undergoing some kind of maybe dressing because of the wounds, they will be also on medication. Number two, they will be on continuous physiotherapy management. The reason why we are doing physiotherapy.
How now? I'm just imagining someone whose leg is burned from the hip up to the feet.
Yes.
To the foot, sorry. How are you going to, physiotherapy is all about exercise.
It is.
So how are you going to touch my wound or his wound as you exercise the foot?
Very true. That is going to happen for what you call the better good.
The better good.
Yes.
The painful good.
Yes, because one of the things is when you get that arm band, one of the things you'll do, you'll put it in a certain position which is comfortable for you. You won't be moving it around because then that limb, if left like that, it will end up healing in some kind of position. We call it contractures. It stiffens in that area. So for us to avoid such cases, because when it stiffens, it means that your muscles have gone short, several tissues have gone short, so you won't be able to use that arm when you heal. Right? You won't be able to stretch, you won't be able to eat. So we want that hand to be moving as it heals. That's where now physiotherapy comes in, as it helps you to maintain that movement within the hand. It is painful, but we still have to do it.
Polykenty, many times we hear that burns are never dressed. As in, there's nothing that is applied on a burn. How true is it? And if it is not true, what are some of the types of dressings that can be placed on a burned patient?
In your dressing unit is whereby you are not supposed to dress at home, but you're supposed to done it in dressing ward. As you have heard doctors saying, there should be a room that is kept in a warm room, whereby during the dressing time, at least you are preventing hypothermia. Henceforth,
hypothermia, you mean?
Yeah, because
too much heat losing from the body, because we have said the skin is gone. It prevents a lot of things. It's very protective. It really ensures that you get that temperature limit from
so it may lose to a very low temperature. That's what you mean?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So in the wound, you are supposed to do with Damazine cream, whereby after cleaning the hood with the normal saline, we continue with the cream, we apply it, and then after cream we use the paraffin gauze to prevent the sticking of the wound. So we prevent it from contamination.
So you don't leave the wound open?
No, we do not leave it until when we assess it and see it's in the process of healing.
Are there some burns which are dressed at home, or that one is not allowed?
To the ones that are dressed at home, that is when we discharge a patient. You know, you cannot keep the patient until the full recovery of the burn. That is where we discharge these children or anybody who has the burn. Then he comes as an outpatient to be dressed. Yeah, we do not, we are discouraged to be dressed at home because they can contaminate. We still encourage them to come as an outpatient.
Okay.
Yeah, we continue the dressings.
Daktari, what are some of the things that may come as a result of burn long term?
We are looking at
Both long term and short term.
we are looking at several things that will give you challenges when it comes to burns. Number one, as you have said, you have exposed that, like, the defense system is already gone, so you're going to get infection. That's number one, which will be a challenge in terms of management. Number two, you have said stiffening of joints like contractures, which will limit your movement and the use of your limbs, your legs and all that. It will give you some funny posture if you're not well managed by physios in that place. So you might end up walking in some funny posture afterwards, or even require surgery to do a release of the same. Then you will have what you call scars. It's a long term, and actually it's more the physical now. Your outlook will be affected. You will have scars that you will remind you of the ordeal every other day. If it's someone who did that to you, and then you will remember that person for a lifetime. Yeah, so those are some of the issues that we'll have.
What about shortly after the burn?
Shortly after the burn, you have a lot of pain. A lot of pain. It's tremendous pain, because if there's a lot of nerves on your skin, and since they have been interfered with, they're now very much exposed. You get the sensation, even a slight thing going through that skin, you feel like the pain is out of like space.
What about if you have burns of the face and the neck?
Yes, when you have burns of the face, one of the things, as I've said, your outlook is affected. Then number two, movement is affected, eating is affected. You're not, for example, your mouth is, if you're burned around the mouth area, your mouth is going to, feeding will be a problem in this case, and especially if it includes internal burns, which now that means you inhaled a lot of smoke, hot smoke through your mouth and nose. That way you might not even ingest anything. It will be like you have to be fed through the tubes, and that's quite a challenge. It poses a health hazard, because once you get those internal burns, then survival rate also is really reduced, because it means your lungs have been really affected.
Polly, what are some of the nutritional substances that the patients in the burns unit, or the people who have burns, you would advocate for them?
We are supposed, in the high unit of burns, usually encourage the people to get the high rich protein diet with the high calories, so that to stimulate the healing process. With that, and some other balanced nutrition. Yeah, and the intake of friends, because of the loss of a lot of friends during the due to the burn. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for that. If I may ask, Daktari, what are some of the preventive measures that we should take care of, at least, if not 100%, to prevent burns from occurring?
Well, as we've mentioned a number of burns,
Yes.
let's start with electricity. We are always told that ensure there is no naked wire in the house. Ensure that all outlet ports are well protected from maybe kids, because kids will be messy sometimes. They will try to insert something to those areas. So if there is any port that is unattended to, make sure that most of the time it's turned off if it's not in use. That way you prevent such electrical faults and burns that may occur at home, even to you. Then we have chemical burns. Chemical burns, you have said, they are occurring due to malhandling of these kind of substances. So one, ensure that these chemicals are well labeled at home if you have any, and they are well stored. accessible only when in need. Not just putting them anyhowly. So that's why you find most of them, they are labeled very clearly, stay away from children, because they know adults you you can take care of yourself, but kids might not. They will always try to mess around. Yeah, so and then you're looking at the heat bands at home. Like for example, when we have maybe your gas, as you have said, exploding, you have maybe sometimes even you forget a sufuria on the jiko, and it overheats, the food like burns, right? It may burn your house, something of the sort. So one of the things we have come in place with is installation of systems in the house, the fire detecting systems like alarms, smoke alarms. They will help. And also if you cannot do that, ensure that in your house you have at least firefighting equipment. They're cheap ones, like the blankets, the firefighting blankets. You just place them on the fire points where everyone can access them, and make sure that anybody who can use it in the house knows how it is being used.
Yes.
That way, if anyone sees that there is something burning, they'll know what to do with that. So that in case of a fire in the house. Yeah.
Wow, thank you so much, Daktari. At least when we understand that it can be prevented.
It
if
can.
Not 100%, at least we understand. Now you talked of electric ban. And you say the first thing we should switch off the switch, or do I call it disconnect?
Yes.
And you said if we don't do that, we'll have 2 casualties. How will that be possible? I'm helping my friend or my child. How do I end up being a casualty?
Well, Lucy, as we speak about first aid,
Yes.
the first rule of first aid is ensuring your safety, right? Before you help me who is suffering, ensure yourself you are safe to do so. So,
Yes.
so for example, I'm being electrocuted by touching that cable down there. In case you run to me and hold me, you're getting electrocuted, both of us. And then there's no help you're giving me, right?
Okay, what I want to understand is the electric current was on the wall,
Yeah.
coming maybe to the switch. And because that switch is faulty,
You
it
touched
came
it.
to me. Now, what is wrong with me? I'm not the one. It is her or him.
What I'm saying is this. When I touch that electric cable,
Yes.
and I'm being electrocuted, I personally become a conductor of the electricity.
In short, you are saying that we carry current.
Of course, we
We
carry
can-
current.
we carry.
Current. You realize that
So we will
for you to
continue
move that
carrying.
hand the way you are doing,
Yes.
there's an electric current being generated through your system, from your brain to the nerves all over. And it's called nerve conduction process. So it involves a lot of ions, which are positive, negative, and those ions are what will conduct the electricity from the pole or from the cable
Yes.
to electrocute you. Only that it's in higher volts than what you can handle.
Okay.
So it will burn you, it will blow your muscles to some extent, and that's why it's more dangerous. So the best thing in any case of first aid, for example, now we have talked about the people who fell casualties of a truck, a petrol truck that was ferrying some petroleum, then it overturned, then people went to do siphoning. So what happened is these people did not see the danger, right? And they went there to siphon without taking the precautionary measures, which should be that this is a risky situation, we should be handled like this. So one of you comes with a cigarette, smoking while trying to fetch the petroleum from that
burn
place.
all of us.
And then you burn all of you. Yeah, so the thing is, when helping this person, we are saying, make sure you are safe.
Make sure you are safe.
Yeah, for example, you see a house burning. Don't just rush into that house unknowingly.
What if there are children inside?
There are children inside, yes, but you might, are you able
And
to make...
it may be that those are the only children that woman has. And now the house is burning. I need my children out.
You need your children out.
What should I do? Because I have to pick them.
Number one,
Yes.
ensure that you are sure that child is inside.
Usiingie bure.
Usiingie bure. I have a true testimony that one of my friend is dead because he was in the house sleeping. His kids, actually it was in the morning, he had come from work. So his kids were in the house. They lit some candles. Apparently the house catched fire. So the kids ran out. So the dad, hearing people shouting the house is burning, he comes out. Upon reaching out, and then he realizes, wow, my kids were in their bedroom sleeping. He goes back into the bedroom to look for the kids.
Save them.
But the kids had already ran out.
All right.
So this guy burned in the house, trying to find the kids. Probably they had hidden under the bed, thinking, so he tried to find them in the house. He died. So number one, ensure that these kids are inside first. Ensure that whoever you are going to find is inside, right? And when you are going in, ensure that you are protected. How do you protect yourself when getting into a house full of fire? We normally say, if you have a blanket, soak that blanket in water, then cover yourself around. You will be protected from the flames around. Then make sure you cover your nose and mouth so that whatever you are inhaling, the smoke is not going through. That way you are able to make it to whoever you want to save and probably come out with minor or no injuries.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you may not die of fire, but of inhaling the gases,
smoke. Yeah.
the smoke.
CO2 burns faster than even the fire around you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. At least now we understand that we should stay safe.
Yeah.
Blankets are very important.
Yes.
Suppose now you catch fire and you have to rescue yourself, nobody there. How are you supposed to go about it? You're already burning.
Well, and again, I'm saying this. Remember, it's maybe your house or it's not your house, it's your place of work. It's good that you are well oriented in place and space. That means you know where the fire extinction, this facility is. Right? Like if the fire, it happens to break out right now, you know where the extinguisher is to run and help. That is what it means by.
And you should know how to use it.
You should know how to use it, not just knowing where it is. You should know how to use it. So from time to time, have these trainings, teach the staff. The extinguisher is there. Use it. Let's see you use it. That is how you ensure your safety in your working place from fire. Right? So if you are burning, you should be able to know there is some water somewhere where I can rush and dip my hand. You should be able to know there is maybe some kind of deep cloth which I can use to wrap around and maybe put the fire off.
Yes.
So, or once you make that alarm that I'm burning, somebody should be able to crash and help.
Should I run?
You shouldn't run. The best thing is expose yourself to a place whereby you can be seen and get help.
You stand.
Expose yourself. Like, I mean, like if the room is burning, come out of the room first, right?
Then?
Exposing yourself means being in an open place. Yes.
Or in the same thing, you can roll yourself.
You roll yourself.
Yeah,
On
That
the
is if
ground.
you are covered with fire the entire body,
Yes.
then try to roll yourself down. That will at least slow the fire, the speed of fire burning you.
Okay. Wow, this is getting interesting. Kendi,
Yes.
what are some of these things that we should have so that in the event there is fire, we can be able to help ourselves?
Some of the things that doctors said about the fire extinguisher, you should be having them even at home. Some other things, maybe first aid kits that you are being encouraged now and then to have, maybe like one, you have those blankets too, to prevent more burning when the burns come around. Maybe you should be having even the number that you can reach to the fire. The people
Hotline number.
Yes, the
Yes.
hotline number is important.
Okay, we've seen places whereby there is sand in the buckets. How is it important during fire extinguishing?
Well,
Sand.
Sand. Yeah, like any
Because I
other.
remember I walked into one facility and I was like, hii mchanga yenu huku kila mahali ni ya nini? And I was told this is a gadget in case there is fire.
Yes.
How is it supposed to be used?
Well, like for example, there are fires that you might not put out with water. Sand will be of importance. Like for example, it's let's say a paraffin kind of fire. You know, paraffin floats on water.
Yes.
Right? So you'll pour water, but still it's burning on top. So the best way to put out such fire is sand.
You throw.
Yes, you just pour sand on that fire because it really neutralizes that. If you don't have an extinguisher, it works better. Or you can do a blanket on top, but sometimes if the area is so huge, sand is the best way to go.
Kendi, kindly give us your parting shot because we've come to the end of the show, and I am sure our viewers have learned a lot. Kindly look at that camera and talk to the viewer in 1 minute.
On my side, I'm encouraging people to maintain their safety, especially when it comes to the burn or anything electrical or petrol or fuel. Take care of yourself, not rush, but maintain your safety for better life. Thank you so much, Kendi. Daktari.
Good. What I will tell everybody else that let's embrace this kind of trainings whereby you get safety management trainings, first aid, ensure your family members know how to manage fire issues, how to manage burns, how to manage like any emergency that may arise, because your life depends on them. It's just very cheap, it's just very easy, but it can cost a life. So let's all get involved. Safety is for us all. Thank you so much, Lucy.
Thank you so much, my guests. It was pleasure having you in this show. Viewer, we were discussing about burns. I have learned a lot myself, and I know even you have learned a lot. In fact, the next time we get a chance, we will be bringing people from Red Cross for you so that you can be able to learn some of the simple ways that you can be able to prevent fire. At least I have known one thing that I will give you as I go away, and I will tell you, orient yourself with your house. Know what to use in case the slightest burn occurs in your house. This is DBS TV Africa. I was your host, Lucy Wanza Kariuki.